Well, hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, the host of Helping the Brave. Let's bring in our guest today, Darrell Williams. Thank you so much for coming on.
Ed, thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. I almost said my other podcast there. Got too much going on.
I understand.
So I do back to back today for Helping the Brave. Tomorrow I'll do back to back for my Inner Edison, plus my radio show, and plus a few other things. So I get confused sometimes getting older.
Oh man, that's awesome though.
Yeah. Well, I want to give back. I want to help out. I just remember when I got out, nobody cared. 9/11 happened. People cared again. And I hate to say it, just felt like in the last few years, people didn't care anymore.
Hmm.
I think it's important for us as vets to give back to our vets because I don't feel that. I always say this if you're watching any of the Rambos when
Hmm.
Stallone says, John, what do you want? The other guy says to him, his captain, he's like, I want what everybody else who came over here and spilt their blood for this country wants. I want my government to love me as much as I loved it.
Hmm.
And that's all I want.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into this whole soapbox about the VA system and how it's not working right and all the stuff we need to make changes to because I feel we need to scrap it and start over. But that's just my opinion.
Hmm.
And I feel that they fight you on your benefits. They fight you to give you anything. They don't want to give it to you when they should be giving it to you. And I got a small disability when I first got out and went to go back in the 90s. It was a fight to do anything. And then luckily I ran into a recent guy, Ranger Johnson, who is now helping me. And what a drastic thing and how much easier it is. If you have the right person helping you, you need to go back and get your benefits. I don't care if you got a 20% or whatever, you go back. I know people who are getting 100% now. And one of the sad things is people who just recently got out in the last few years who got yelled at are getting 80%.
They should. That's good.
No. They just got yelled at.
Oh no, I thought they got the 80%.
No, what I'm saying is they were just yelled at and they got 80%. And you got people with purple
Oh.
hearts who get only 80%. And you
Oh
have people
wow.
who,
No.
yeah. So I'm just saying you there, and that's what he was explaining to me. He goes, Ed, you don't understand. He goes, you have people who they go in for mental
Mm.
because of they were, yelled at, like you're supposed to be yelled at in the military
Yeah, that's
to
what we did.
break you down and bring you back up to how you should be.
That's what happened.
And it's an army of one, not an army of individuals that we turned into. So thank God we're going to go back there. And you must know this from being in for as long as you were,
Oh yeah.
how it changed and everything else. And but again, that's not about me to tell your story. I'm here to listen about your story. So what service were you in?
So Ed, I was in the army for 20 years.
And why did you pick the army?
So
It's
funny
not a bad
story.
question. It's just I want to
Sure,
know why
sure.
people pick certain services.
Actually, mine's a weird story. So I grew up in Compton, California.
Mhm. I'm
So
in Modesto, California, and I was in San Diego for 20 years.
okay, so you can imagine doing the Boys in the Hood timeline.
Mhm.
That's when I grew up at, right? So this is back in the day, 80s.
Yep.
And then about 83, my junior year, I think I was just hanging out somewhere and I ran into a recruiter. I was trying to avoid him, right? Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that time. And he got my attention. And I think I just said something like, I'm just going to go to college, knowing that I couldn't go to college, couldn't afford it. And
Daryl, for people
yeah,
to know, Compton is not a really nice place.
oh no.
Not everybody knows where Compton is in California. Like
So,
you said, Boys in the Hood, it was a movie. Watch
yes,
the movie. You'll
watch the
understand what he's
movie.
talking about.
Absolutely, definitely watch the movie. And I think I told the recruiter, I'm going to go to University of Arkansas or something because I got family back there. And I don't know how he did it, Ed, but he opened up this book and just said, "Here's what it costs to go to the University of Arkansas. Do you have this much?" And life got real serious in that moment. And I was like, "Okay, tell me about this Army thing." And once he started describing the Army, I was like, you know what? It's not bad, right? Travel, get my education paid for. I just thought it was good. Went in as a administrative specialist, which eventually turned out to be HR, and the rest was history. I mean, this definitely one of the most professional, best decisions that I ever made, because going in there not knowing I was going to do the whole 20 years is just awesome.
When did you realize you were going to do 20 years?
Probably
You
my
hit 12?
first. No, 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 no. It was actually my first enlistment after the first 4 years. I called my mom and said, I'm getting ready to get out and come back. And the question she asked me, Ed, to this day, I love it. She just said, "What for?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what for? I'm coming back home." She's like, "What for?" I couldn't answer her question, Ed. So I was like, you know what? You're right. And I end up at that time they were doing the long-term enlistments. You can just sign up for like 8 years or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going back for. And that's when I knew I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole 20.
Yeah. So the reason I didn't do my 20, because I was in the Navy, I was a corpsman, and I was at Camp Pendleton, and I had got my bachelor's while I was in. I was working on my master's, and they're like, "Well, you're gonna, switch over to be an officer." I'm like, "That's a line officer. I don't want to be on a ship forever." Because
Right.
there's the likelihood of me not going to a ship at that time was because when I was 18 months in, they said, "All right, Ed, it's time for you to either go to a ship or a specialty
Mm-hmm.
school." And I'm like, "Okay, what specialty school is not on a ship?" And they're like, "Physical therapy." I'm like, "That's what I want to do." And then luckily, I was in the sports and everything else. It was
All
perfect for
good.
sports medicine and so physical therapy and learning all that stuff and every origin insertions. I actually went to San Antonio, Texas, to that school for the 3 months to learn that stuff, and then went back to Camp Pendleton for the finalize of it. And then they just said, "Hey, you're staying here." So my whole time, pretty much 5 years, I was at Camp Pendleton,
All right. All right.
besides boot camp and everything else.
Right. 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 Right.
So that was my story. So when you were like Compton, I knew exactly where it was because it's stationed at Oceanside in Camp Pendleton right there. And then I ended up getting out after 5 years because I had all that, and I stayed down there for 20 years. So I moved up to Northern California in 2002.
Nice. Nice.
So when you were Compton, then where did you get your first station at?
So first station, I told them to send me as far away as possible. I've never seen anything. So they sent me to Germany. So my first assignment was in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Back when they
Your
actually
first 4
had
years were
troops.
actually out of country?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I told them to send me as far away as possible. If I'm going to do this thing, I want to see the world.
And so you went to Germany, and then how long were you in Germany?
In Germany for about 3 years. And then it was weird. I was trying to go to Fort Hood, Texas, because at that time in the Army, if you want to make it, get promoted, you got to go to those hardcore units. So I'm like, I'm down for that. I have nothing holding me back. And I went to, in the military, you have these specialty boards that you go to, right? Soldier of the quarter, soldier of the month, soldier of the region. I did all that stuff just to kind of boost my career. This one E9 just happened to be on a couple of my boards. And then my last board I went to, even though I lost, he was like, "Hey, I'm coming to your area. Come see me." And I'm like, "Yeah, how is the E4 going to go?" "Oh, the E9 said I can come see him." Like, "That's not going to happen, Sergeant Major." He's like, "Nope, nope, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." And he came to visit the unit. We had a little one-on-one, and he changed my assignment from Fort Hood to the Pentagon.
Wow.
And I was like, "Why are you doing this, Sergeant Major? I need to go soldier. I need to go do this." And he's like, "Nope." He said, "There's regular assignments and there's special assignments." He said, "We got to start filling the special assignment with quality people, just like we do the other ones. And I think you can do well there." So as much as I hated it and tried to fight it and try to get out and go to an MP unit once I got to the area, I ended up just sticking through it. And I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. In my mind, I was just so immature. I didn't think you can make it in those type of assignments and still get promoted.
And so what did you do at the Pentagon?
HR, right? So just doing military personnel type stuff, which I didn't have a problem doing that job. I love the job. It was just, I just thought that to get promoted, there was only one way to do it. And I was just, again, just immature, didn't trust this E9. I was in the military longer than I had boots. But luckily, I'm glad I paid attention at the very end.
Now, so you were how long were you at the Pentagon?
About 2 years.
And then
Two years.
so once you go there, where do you go from there?
Right. So I had a buddy of mine. We were just trying to get off work one day, and we saw this advertisement for the White House Communications Agency. Didn't know what it was, didn't care. We just wanted to get out of work that day. So, man, if we do this interview Friday morning, we'll be off by lunchtime and we can just goof off for the rest of the day. Didn't know where the unit was, didn't know what it did. Went in there, filled out some paperwork, and a couple of months later, found out, "Hey, you've been accepted, White House Communications Agency." I'm like, "Oh, snap. What is this? What did I sign myself up for?" And I remember going to the senior leader, like, hey, you know anybody went to the White House Communications Agency? He's like, no, but you're probably just going to be making coffee for the president. So you need to try to get out of it. And I'm like, well, I'm already going now. So at least I have to give it a year. And really turned out to be an amazing assignment.
And so what did you do there? Did you get coffee?
So I had two jobs, right? Still had my admin job, taking care of the people in one of the units there. But since I was non-com, they had a role when you traveled, kind of like a logistics coordinator is why I describe it to people, because people don't understand what an operations NCO is. But basically, it was a logistics coordinator. So everywhere the president went, there was a large team at that time. We didn't have the cool equipment they have nowadays. So it was about 30 of us. And this is real old school. I'm paying for airline tickets. I'm paying for rental cars, getting the hotels. And then just kind of just acting like a first sergeant on the road was pretty much what the job was. And just one of the best jobs I could have had, because my whole job was just taking care of people.
What president was that?
That was Bush Sr.
Okay. And how was that?
It was awesome. I mean, just one of those jobs where, like, here's what you're supposed to do.
Senior. You said senior. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is back in the day. This is 1990 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you said you got in 84, 85,
yes.
Right? I got in 85 and got out in 90. I missed the Gulf War by 2 days. And then people like, well, do you? And I'm like, no, I'm so happy I didn't go. I mean, I don't wish any war on anybody. I don't wish anybody to go to the sandbox. You serve your country, and if you unfortunately go, we need to support you. Even if you don't go, we need to support you, because there's other stuff that you do. And I was talking to somebody else before this one. I was explaining to them, when I pulled duty at Camp Pendleton as a physical therapy person, we pulled duty as a ambulance driver and EMT in the back. So we switched those positions, and we would go out to. We're at Santa Onofre. We'd go out to accidents on the road, and they're like, really, to civilian accidents? It's like, okay, there's a 50% chance it's a military person in that accident, because of the fact that it's right there by Camp Pendleton.
Good point.
And so we would see, I saw stuff that I can still see to this day. And I was talking to a guy helping me get my disability up. He goes, dude, you got PTSD. I'm like,
absolutely.
Oh. He goes, no. I go, I can remember every patient I touched, everything I did to them, and everything to this day. And he's like, that's what we call PTSD. It's just not in combat zone. I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So, do you have a disability rating from the VA?
I just got it not too long ago.
And did you do it yourself? Did you get help?
Oh, no, got help. I've always been put in for help and just never did anything with it. So I just kind of left it alone for a couple of years. And then a guy at my church, retired Marine guy, he kind of does our veterans ministry. And he did something one Saturday. He just brought in a person and had everybody just sign up and took care of him right there on the spot, which I thought was really cool. And I still miss that day. And he was just so diligent about, hey, man, you need to, go do your appointment. So I finally did it. And that was the first time I wasn't disappointed.
Did you get 100%?
No, not even close.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is because we'll talk afterwards. I have a guy for you. Ranger Johnson. You'll know Ranger Johnson, those Army guys. I interviewed him on a podcast 2 months ago and signed up for the program. And because he was doing it for everybody for free. His son's like, Dad, what are you doing during the pandemic? He's like, well, this is what I'm doing. Well, let's create a course for it. Let's do this. And the guy's amazing. I've sent him in the last 2 weeks, probably almost 10 people.
That's great.
Because I want every veteran to get as much as you can, because it's not, even though you get your retirement, if you get 100% disability and you're married, it's $4,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year tax, if you figure the tax on it that you should be getting. And of course, VA fights you on everything. And if you don't write it right, if you don't know how to do the words, you don't know how to do certain things. So even though people are helping people, this guy actually helps you write it and actually go through the whole thing, which is exactly what you want. I thought I wrote well. I'm to a point where I use ChatGPT for everything I do. Okay. And I even created a GPT through ChatGPT to drop my DD-214 in there and put in my information, all this stuff, and write this stuff. And then I gave it to him. He's like, that was amazing. He made some changes and he gave it back to me. It was 3 paragraphs and more than it was before. And he's like, no, put that on your form. And he just walks through everything. And And that's what you want. You want somebody to be there to help you with that. He does. The really good ones do charge, but he doesn't charge like the expensive ones, because a lot of these companies are 20 and 30% of your first check, and that's a lot of money. He's $5,000 up front, or you could just go through his course and he'll walk you through it. But I want him.
Yeah.
After I talk to him, I want him. I don't want your son. I don't want your other people you want. I want you. And so it's a huge difference. And he's really big on helping people because of the fact that I sent him my nephew. Actually, it's my niece's husband. He's a Purple Heart, and he's only 80%. And he can tell you exactly when he got blown up. And he shouldn't be at 80%. He should be more.
Absolutely right.
And that's why I try to explain to people, the veteran, it's like any of these the VA is like any of these insurance companies who deny you as much as they can up front. So you have to fight the system to get to where you want. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be helping us veterans. And that's what I was trying to get to earlier when I was talking to you about the 80%. The wrong people are getting it when the right people need to get it.
No, you're right. And that's kind of one of the reasons when I, retired to start going to the military transition coaching, just to help people and whatever, it's almost like you bring your gift to the table. What are you good at? Helping people write resumes and prep them for interviews. And that has definitely been one of the best things I get to do.
Is that what you do for a living now?
No, I still work for the government doing military HR.
Okay.
But I tell everybody,
on the civilian side?
Yep, do that on the civilian side. But my heart is definitely doing all the transition coaching and federal coaching and all that good stuff.
Do you run a business out of that? Is it your side business?
Kind of a side business as well.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're good at it, you should turn it into a business, Daryl.
Yep.
For your third time after you retire out of the civilian world again.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying, or you might go, I'm making too much money off it. Helping veterans. And just so the reason I bring this up is helping the brave start off just by telling your transition story and what you went through and other stuff. It's actually moved a lot into, because people on Podmatch and stuff have had businesses also. And it's moved into how to build a business, how to do certain things, how to do things that you want to better your life as a veteran. Because if you can get a 100% disability, that's 60 grand a year that you make and I mean tax, if you figure the tax on it, right? Without it, it's 50, right? If you're married, if you're 100%. That's huge money. That can change people's lives.
Absolutely.
On top of everything else that they're doing. And if you retire, that's additional money that you don't have to worry about. Plus, if you pass away, your wife gets it. I don't know the whole rules behind it, but there's rules behind that. But you need to go back and get those things. And the one thing that's nice about Ranger Johnson, he's like, dude, if it's 1%, it's a yes.
Yes.
Because he goes, us veterans will go, it's not a big deal. That pain that's there constantly, it's no big deal.
It's true.
Because I go to the chiropractor a lot because of stuff that has happened to me when I was in, and I've been doing it for years. So we're talking 25, 30 years, right? And the lady asked me the other day, what's that pain range? I'm like, probably for a normal person, 8 or 9, but for me, I do 5.
Yep.
Right?
That's how we answer it. So true.
No, we're fine. I'm good. No, you're not good. Stop it. And that's why they get away with what they get away with. Like if you have a knee problem unless they can see a major problem or a scar across it for surgery, you don't get that. But what people don't understand is, and I bring this up a lot because I think now this is my passion on everything else, is to make sure everybody gets their benefits, because it's huge. It's life changing. And I had a friend through Rotary who I referred also, and he texted me today, had his second appointment with the guy. He's like, dude, this is life changing. Thank you so much for me. And I'm like, you're welcome, because you not only, if you get 100% in California, it's different, but we don't pay property taxes on 200,000 or above. Other states, you don't pay property taxes at all.
That's right.
Your kids can go to school for free in certain states. If you're 100%, they can make as much money as they want and go to school for free. If it's less than 100%, they have to max out at 12,000. Depending on the year, whenever it was. There's a whole factor you got to figure out. But there's so much you can, and then you can go to rehab and get all this other stuff. So there's so much stuff you can do. You need to get your benefits. And this is shouldn't be a podcast about benefits, but it's a podcast for you, Daryl, about what you're doing. But I think you should, if you do so well, what you just tell me you do well, you should turn that into business to help more vets, because more vets need that. I had an engineer. So I do this Operation Firewalk, started it last year, which is an event where you come to, where you motivate you and all this stuff. And at the end of the night, walk on actual coals. Tony Robbins, a guy that worked for Tony Robbins for 20 years, actually runs it for me. And so it's a Tony Robbins event in the evening, even though Tony Robbins isn't there. But we have amazing speakers come and talk. And we have a couple, we're going to announce them in this month. It's going to be May 3rd, but it's amazing. And that's my passion also, but really it's helping vets get their benefits so that they can change their lives.
And that's just much needed out here.
We give back to our government. We need to get back to us also.
Absolutely.
So speaking of what you're into for 20 years, you retired. Why did you retire? I mean, 20 years is one number, 25 is another number, and there's other stuff.
So about 3 years out before I retired, I started planning my retirement because I had a lot of mentors and just wanted to. I was always that person like, okay, what can I gather just in case somebody comes behind me may want it. So I was taking a lot of notes, meeting with people. And almost every senior leader that I spoke with that did more than 20, they all said if they had to do it all over again, they would have got out right at 20 so they could start their second career.
Gotcha.
So once I heard that, I was like, why do I need to go past 20? Because I know I'm going to work again, so might as well start their career. So that's why I got out at 20. And then what happened, I was taking so many notes that other guys that were retiring were like, hey, you need to go talk to him, because I would just share what I had, about their resume and interview tips and things of that nature and dress for success. And then after a while, I just kept doing it. And so even after I retired, people at my old organization were like, hey, I was told to give you a call. You can help me with my resume, and just kept doing it. So when I got out at 20, it was another reason I just wanted to continue to help other people.
Now, where do you live?
In Maryland, near Fort Meade, Maryland.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because I didn't ask you originally.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so there's, and what I've talking to a lot of people transition out and whatever, if they don't stay till 20 and they get out when they're in 8 years or whatever, the transition for them is really hard.
It's tough.
Right?
It's very
or even
tough.
4 years. The lower people on the E4 and below or E5 and below getting out at that time, there isn't really a transition for them and help for them to get help to get into a job or whatever. And we need to do more for them. And we need to also figure out a way to translate what you do in the military to civilian world. And what I mean is somebody needs to figure that out at the Pentagon level to where, hey, this exactly goes over into this. You know what I mean? I run into that a lot where I was a corpsman, but I also if I got out and took the test, I could have got my LVN, which is not a great nurse thing to do, but it all doesn't relate over. Right. And so, but it would be nice to know that if you like in the Army, you can become a nurse with 2 years of education. I'm sure it's LVN, not a registered nurse, but it could be, I don't know. But that would relate over, but like an EMT doesn't relate over. You can't just go out and be an EMT, even though to get in the, which is weird because the Army now, in order to be a medic, you have to pass EMT school in specialty school. And if you don't pass it, you're out, you're redone and you're something else. Where with us as corpsmen, we go through corpsman school, but EMT was something that we did additional to what we already learned.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the EMT up front makes even more sense. Yeah. So I think and I didn't understand how big the Army was until my son was getting in it and how big it was.
Yeah.
I was going to do it again. I think I would have went in the Army because you can advance so much faster with rank than you can.
Yeah, a little bit more opportunities. Yeah,
I got stuck at E4 for 5 years. So even if I went in as an E2 or E3 through the special program, I wouldn't have got above an E4 even the time I was in, just because nobody gets out at that time. Nobody was getting out. They have to get out in order for you to move up.
Yeah. Navy's always been kind of minimum on their billets and how they do their promotions.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, but oh well. I recovered.
Good.
All right. So going forward, we talked about your service, we talked about what we do, and we talked about how you help vets with writing resume. And what else? I smile when you said Dress for Success, because I remember the book Dress for Success, which most people don't even know it was a book or is a book. And I think it's a little bit different these days, depending on where you're working and what you're doing, what people think it is. I'm in I'm in a sweatshirt most of the time, unless I'm talking to a client, and then I dress the way my clients dress.
Right. Before those, again, military guys, especially in this area that's getting out, interviews are pretty high here. So I told them, even though once you get in the job, you may not even wear that suit again, that first impression could be a lasting impression. So just kind of, if they don't have it, like, hey, you might want to invest in at least one black suit, one blue suit. You can wear the same shirt, different tie, and that can get you through a whole lot of different interviews. So again, it's just those little things, like you said, nobody tells them those type of things. And I was really mad when I got out, because when I talked to people outside of my circle, it was like, who's your mentor? I mean, you got to know somebody that's got out before. Did they not go back and tell you their path? And it was at that time, this is pre LinkedIn, so nobody's on LinkedIn at this time, right? You're just doing it on your own.
There was no LinkedIn.
It was not. So everything you did was on your own. But my thing was always, whatever information we get, we should pass it on.
Yeah.
So I was just so frustrated. Yet? Say again?
Have you written a book?
I'm working on it now.
Okay.
Working on it now. So my thing was, whatever I had, I wanted to make sure somebody else out there. Because again, that's a family. Like this is, like you said, whether it's E4, E5, E7, they have a family. And depending on who they run into and where they get that type of information, they may not ever get it. So my biggest thing was take what I give you and pass it on.
Yeah. Well, and have you created a website with all this information yet?
No, because again, you don't have to do it now because LinkedIn. I mean, it's so easy.
What do you mean you don't have to know? You still need to know what to do.
Man, there's this one guy on LinkedIn. Oh my God, what is his name? Mike Johnson. The dude posts something every single day. If you just took his post, they would be a great book. I mean,
you're saying about that on LinkedIn tells you what to do. These people,
yes,
how to get your job. Kind of
absolutely. It's so
not everybody's on LinkedIn.
There.
Most of the kids aren't on LinkedIn.
Well, that's why when I go to different places, I tell them get a LinkedIn account. Oh, I thought that was for civilians. Absolutely not. It's for professionals. Get a LinkedIn account, depending on what you want to do. Now, if you don't need it, that's fine. I'm just saying most of the people I talk to, they benefited from networking. Because one thing they're going to realize is, how you advance professionally outside military, a lot of it has to do with networking.
It's the same way inside.
Especially in this area.
It's the same way inside. If you piss off people inside, you're not going to go anywhere. You have to, right? You have a good relationship with the people you work with and other people and do a good job. And that's how you move up the ranks. Because my son he's an E5 now. He's only been in 5 years. And he waited for E5 because the reenlistment for E4 was 40 grand and for E5 was 10 grand. Like I'm waiting for after I get my reenlistment bonus before I move up.
Very smart.
Yeah, very smart. And now he's slotted for E6, but he's waiting. The whole got to get your points, I guess, right?
Yes. Yep. You got to get the points. Exactly.
But I mean, it's he's learned from me what to do and what not to do. You know what I mean? So
it's a big plus.
Yeah. If you're going to have a site that you're going to be doing stupid stuff on, that's a password protected, and that is a private site that nobody knows about. And that's how he had it in high school. And it's like, that's smart, not nobody, because that way you don't get into trouble when you do something stupid. So.
Exactly. Very smart.
We all do stuff stupid when we're young.
That's my God. That's a part of growing up and kind of clicking those boxes.
All right. Do you want people to find you, Daryl, for any reason at all?
Yeah, if they do, they can hit me up on allianceseminars.org.
So you do have a website?
Oh, yeah. I have a website.
I asked, do you have a website? And you're like,
No. I have a website, but I don't put a whole lot of that information on there because it's just so much and it changes so much. But no, I do have the site. And the funny part is the only reason I got the site, I was helping so many people. It's like I was getting more referrals. So I didn't care about a website, but somebody's like, well, you probably need to get a website just so you can, seem legit. I'm like, whatever. I mean, I'm doing it to help people. I don't care about if somebody thinks I'm legit or not. I just love when somebody emails me back and says, hey, man, I got the job, took major stress off of me and my family. Like, that's my reward.
Right. And again, they all should be getting their benefits when they get out, but nobody helps them on that either. Just like what you went through. So I got mine through DAV originally with 10% and never went back. Yep. Right. And it's like, okay. And then I tried in the 90s and it was a nightmare. And then And then I ran into this guy. He's like, oh, no, man, it took me 19 years. I know exactly. And then how he ran into it was he did it, got 100% after 19 years. And then he told somebody else at a gas station what he did. And he sent him he wrote down step by step what he did. And he sent it to the guy. And the guy's like, called him like 3 months later, goes, you might not remember who I am, but this is what you did. And I got 100%. I can't believe it.
Awesome. Love those stories.
So he kept helping people. And then his son told him, you need to turn this into a thing, Dad, because you need to. So their goal is to help thousands of veterans. And that's what I want. I want to help veterans. I don't want to, and I was telling somebody else, they're going to get to a point where they can't handle the volume. So somebody else needs to kind of do it the same way they do and get this going so that more and more of us can get our benefits so that we're not committing suicide and we're not doing this
Exactly. So needed.
Yeah. And we definitely need to get more of that out there and more help for everybody. So if you guys have if you're listening to this and you know somebody needs help with this, just reach out to me and I'll get you over to Ranger Johnson.
Nice.
And I don't make any money off of it. I don't try to make
just what we need to do. It's the right thing to do.
Correct. I mean, I was at the point where I'm going to start one of these, and I found him. I'm not going to start one of these. I'm going to do what I do best, which is connect people. And the reason I brought up, and so you have LinkedIn. I assume you're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I want to find you, Darrell Williams. Is that what you're under LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So check out Daryl under LinkedIn if you need help with your resume and other stuff, or career. He can help you through that. Reach out to him. He is writing a book. What's the name of your book? Have you named it yet?
Set the conditions for success.
All right. And I assume it will be on Amazon. Is there any time? Do you have a set date that you might have it released?
Not yet. No, not yet.
All right. And you doing it yourself, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know how to upload on Amazon?
Oh, yeah. I got the funny part is the alumni group that I'm with, almost half of them have already wrote a book. So really fortunate. Again, that networking piece. It's like,
you gotta have that. Yeah.
Yeah. Before you do anything, talk to me, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, because that's like the guy I just interviewed before you. He has volume 1 and 2 and 3, and he has volume 4 coming out. I asked him some questions on Amazon because I have a book up there, Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership. Somebody else helped me put that up there 2 Februaries ago, and it did well. It's to help people buy homes and understand all this stuff. But I have 3 other books that I'm finishing right now. And I was asking him some questions, how to upload. And he's like, oh, it's easy. They just blah, blah, blah. So I'm just like, okay, well, and he wants to help vets learn how to write. And he'll do it for free. The guy has Tourette's. And so, he can't, and he writes really well, but we had a great conversation, and he will be out in 3 weeks, and you'll be out 4 weeks after that. So
nice. Man, can't have enough resources. That's for sure.
No, we're here to help vets, and we got to help them. So, and that's what we're here for. So Daryl, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate you. And if you know anybody else, send them my way, because I like to interview more vets.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that.
I appreciate it. Anything else you want to say before we go, Daryl?
No, man, just glad that you're doing what you're doing. It's much needed.
Thank you, sir. All right, everybody, make it a great day.